Good afternoon, Honorable Mayor and City Council members. I am Steve Howlett, Assistant Director of Public Works, and this item is for emergency on-call services performed by Toro Enterprises, Inc. to protect properties and city infrastructure located along the coastal area of Oxnard Beach. Recommendation that the City Council approve and authorize the mayor to execute a one-time payment with Toro Enterprises in the amount of $23,478.39 for emergency on-call services performed on December 29th, 2023 and December 30th, 2023. The picture on this slide is from the high tide event. The tide came over the beach and flooded the north end of Mandalay Beach Road at 5th Street. Background. Government Code Section 8630 and Chapter 6 of the Oxnard City Code empowers the city manager of the City of Oxnard, acting in the capacity as the Director of Emergency Services, to proclaim the existence or threatened existence of a local emergency when the city is affected or likely to be affected by a public calamity and the City Council is not in session. On December 21st, 2023, the city was inundated with a series of rainstorms that the Los Angeles Times described as a once-in-a-millennium rainfall. In addition to the rainstorms, a high tide warning with possible coastal flooding was issued for December 29th through 31st, 2023. As a result, the director proclaimed the existence of a local emergency on December 27th, 2023, with an emergency proclamation that is attached to this staff report as Attachment 1. The City Council then ratified the emergency proclamation on January 2nd, 2024, which is Attachment 2. Discussion. Per the January 2nd, 2024 ratification of Resolution 15758 proclaiming the existence of a local emergency, the Director of Emergency Services shall, D, to the extent permitted by law, city goods and services procurement requirements are stayed during this local emergency as necessary to procure and respond to the local emergency, and the Director of Emergency Services is empowered to exercise all powers granted by any local, state, or federal emergency laws, rules, and regulations, and such procurements made by the Director of Emergency Services are hereby ratified. Further, the Director of Emergency Services is authorized to appropriate and expend any city funds deemed necessary by the Director of Emergency Services in writing, including unappropriated city reserve funds, to exercise any of said emergency powers or procurement powers, and to transfer such funds to corresponding city budget line items or categories. And Section E, to the extent permitted by law, this proclamation of a local emergency is intended to satisfy any local, state, or federal law or regulation requiring such a proclamation as a prerequisite or requirement for mutual assistance, reimbursement, or other cooperation with any other local, state, or federal entity. This proclamation of local emergency also hereby activates any and all existing city emergency plans and authorizes the Director of Emergency Services to amend such plans in writing as necessary. And finally, F, the Director of Emergency Services, as delegated by the City Council pursuant to Chapter 6 of the City Code, may promulgate orders and regulations necessary to provide for the protection of life and property. The Public Works Department currently has multiple agreements with Toro Enterprises that include street and alley paving and on-call services with the water and wastewater divisions. The on-call agreement is for scheduled and non-scheduled or unplanned repair and maintenance of facilities and infrastructures. After receiving notice of a high tide warning and potential flooding, staff met with representatives from Toro on December 29th, 2023 to discuss building a sand berm to protect the residential properties and city infrastructure along the Oxnard Beach. During that on-site meeting, staff and the contractor witnessed a tide wash over the beach and flood Mandalay Beach Road at 5th Street. The city manager, acting as the Director of Emergency Services, was immediately contacted, and staff instructed Toro to begin building the sand berm based on the time and material prices contained within their current on-call agreement. The Toro invoice for the 2 days of work that was required to build the berm was held pending a decision on when the berm would be removed. At that time, it was the intention of city staff to have Toro remove the berm and submit the invoices for both the construction and the removal at the same time. However, after a few months, County Fire offered to remove the berm at no charge to the city in exchange for a coordinated effort through the entire length of the berm that included the beaches for the city of Ventura, the county of Ventura, and the state. County Fire began removing the sand berms on March 4th, 2024, with the intention of having all the berms removed by March 15th, 2024. Therefore, staff is now recommending the invoice be approved for payment for the construction of the berm by Toro in the amount of $23,478.39. Financial impact. The cost of this one-time on-call emergency service with Toro Enterprises is $23,478.39. Funding is available in the general fund parks operation budget. This picture on the slide shows the completed berm that protected the street and properties. Once it was built, you can see that the water is there to the west, but the properties on the east of the berm are dry. So it was successful. That concludes the staff report, and staff is available if you have any questions. Thank you.